Hey everyone, welcome to week 3. So like I mentioned in my short live video, I got this pre-recorded so that one, I can keep you guys on schedule and just double booking myself, which has been an issue and I promise not to do in the upcoming weeks because I really do appreciate connecting with you guys live so that you can ask questions as you go through this. So I'm going to go through the presentation. Again, as you have questions, just write them down though, and then pop them in our group, because likely you're not the only one that has the question. I have learned that time and time again, is that when I have a question and I'm sitting there and I'm feeling stupid because I'm unclear about something, but I don't want to be the person to ask because I'm afraid of looking stupid, someone else usually will have the guts to ask. And I go, oh yeah, thankfully they asked, because, otherwise I wouldn't have known. And so I really really invite you guys to ask questions and be your own advocates for finding solutions as well, right? You guys know so much more than you think. And as a collective, we know a hell of a lot. And so don't be afraid to post questions in the group, because that is truly what these groups are for. This is why I did a whole separate group, so that you guys are just in this together. And again, knowing even after, doing this for over 3 years, I am still learning every day. And so, like I said, please ask questions as we go through. I'm going to share my screen and then I will hop right through the presentation. All right, so bear with me. My computer reset to mountains, which is lovely, but usually I have something more inspiring on my background. All right, here we go. Ta-da! Okay, so we are in week 3 of Launch Your Biz. And this week I wanted to, again, I've always been starting with these quotes, because I feel like we have to get in the right mindset first and foremost before you do anything else. So I love this quote: you have to expect things of yourself before you can do them. And so much about what we do and don't do is the expectations we put on ourselves. I see this every day with builders, and that's why it's easy not to succeed in this business, because people aren't putting the expectations on themselves like they would if they actually had a boss. And don't get me wrong, I'm not anyone's boss here, but you're the boss of yourself. But at the same time, you have to have that kind of boss mentality of putting things in place and doing the work that needs to get done, even if it's the hard stuff. So I loved this quote, and I wanted to share it with you, because again, we have to set these expectations for ourselves, because no one else really is going to. So this week is really about inviting and teaching. So we're going to touch base on sharing your story. We're going to touch base on how to invite people to your classes. We'll talk about a bit of class prep and some teaching basics. I'm not going to go through teaching a whole class today. But again, I left this quote up. Again, before anything else, preparation is the key. And so you'll see, we talk about class prep. Or even as I do these calls, right? I have to do these slides. I have to prep the topic. Otherwise, it's literally going to be week by week, Jackie just rambling on about God knows what. So we're going to be touching on the Empowered Success Guides. Again, if you guys aren't opening these up and looking through them, you need to do that, all right? So absolutely take a peek through these, because this is where I'm getting a lot of this information from. One of the pieces, and this is from page 5 of the Share Guide, it talks about sharing your story. So we need to, again, be prepared to share your own story on why essential oils are important to you. But I love that it notes to keep it brief, because again, it's not all about you. And I have been super guilty of this, of telling my life story at a class and making it way too long. It's not about me. And so this is going to be for homework. We don't have to go through this all right now, but if you want to, you can obviously pause the video. And that's honestly, since you guys are doing this as a recording, it might be a good idea to just get the homework, some of this homework out of the way right now. So you can pause the video, download the share guide if you haven't already, and look at page 5. It's just going to ask you those few questions. What led you to doTERRA, right? What concerns were you having, and what frustrations were you experiencing? And then what positive experience did you have with the oils or products? You know, what product helped? You know, for me, it was, I had a ton of digestive issues, and I also was looking for non-toxic options. And so doTERRA, just like, you mean, between Zengest and then the options of some of doTERRA's products and how I could make my own products that were clean and simple, those were truly the solution that I was looking for. You mean, and then talk about how has doTERRA's products changed your life, right? For me, I know it's my medicine cabinet now. I feel very confident dealing with whatever comes our way, whether it's day-to-day issues or even some bigger ailments. Like I'm not scared like I used to be when everyone else is getting sick around me, because I know that my immune system is probably a hell of a lot better than most. And even if we do get sick, I'm gonna be able to deal with it and ease my symptoms, again, a whole lot better than I ever could before. So walk yourself through this, even pause the video and do this now. But again, go with you. Don't mimic someone else's story. Take some time to really dive into yours. The next piece that we're going to chat about is inviting. So I want you to review the slides from the booking class presentation, because I give some actual scripts. And again, if you haven't had a chance to watch that video, I really highly recommend it. We're going to be diving into more about booking classes next week, you know, inviting other people. So again, it's still optional to watch that video and go through the slides, but I really do invite you to review those slides because it has some great scripts in it if you're not quite sure how to language the way you're inviting. I also invite you to look at page 8 and 9 from the launch guide. It also has some inviting scripts depending on what you're inviting them to. It talks about inviting people to a webinar, talks about inviting them to a class, or the business opportunity. It has lots of pieces of how to word that if you feel like you're a little bit stuck. I invite you to rework those words so it sounds like you, but at least it'll give you a guideline. And I know that that definitely helped me in the beginning. I pulled this from the launch guide, I believe, and I loved it. And it says, help people say yes. And this is truly what you're doing when you're inviting people to this opportunity to learn about the oils, or whether you're inviting them to the opportunity to learn about the business. You want to be clear on what you're inviting them to, right? You want to be super clear. This is not the time to be vague. I have been turned off by so many things. I remember a few months ago, there was a woman and she was trying to get me into this whole attraction marketing piece. And she's like, well, I can't tell you much about it, but you can pay like $99 to learn about the opportunity. And I was like, I'm out. I was like, if you can't at least tell me the basics of this, there's no way that I'm going to give you $100. It was kind of ridiculous. So, you know, again, be clear on what you're inviting them to. The next thing was let them know the value of investing their time. Value their time and know that you value their time, because people are busy and we all can identify with that. So again, let them know that you value their time. So this is going to be an hour class. We're going to try to, you know, stick to the schedule there and provide you with a lot of information for that hour that you're there, because I know that you're a busy person. So give, you know, 2 options that can work for them, right? Classes or one-on-ones. And I talk about this a lot in my booking classes presentation, right? If someone says they can't come to a class, I'm going to offer that one-on-one. Or if they can't come to this class, I'm going to have a couple of other dates of classes that they might be able to come to. You're always wanting to give them options. And then be patient, you know, strengthen the relationships, build trust through multiple interactions, and keep your word. And I mean, I've definitely been guilty of this as well, where I got busy and forgot, and that's essentially not keeping my word, which doesn't help my business. So again, know that it might take more than inviting someone once or twice before they actually come to a class. Again, I've talked about this where there's been people I've invited for like a year, off and on over a year, before they ever came to a class or got started with a kid or hosted their own class or whatever. So again, just come back to that mindset that you're just helping people say yes. It's not for you to convince them, it's to help them understand the value and the opportunity to learn more. So a few little notes that I put together and just pieces that I wanted to touch base on when inviting. Like in the previous slide, it's all about how you handle the response, right? If they say no, that date doesn't work, then do you just go, okay, thanks, and then leave it there? No, you need to always turn it around to that positive response. It's like, and again, this is why I say watch the booking the booking classes video, because I talk about this all so much more in detail. But again, it's just, if they can't come, you're going to offer a different date, or offer them to host a class, or offer them a one-on-one. Keep your interactions short and sweet. Unless they really want a lot more detail on something, keep those sentences short and sweet. Just even your message only a few sentences long, because they're more likely to read it if they're short, because people's attention span is short. Mine absolutely is. If people respond to me with big long messages when I only ask like a little question, I am so turned off. I won't read it right then, and I'll just mark it for unread later, or I forget to mark it unread, and then I forget to look at it later, and then I forget about the whole message. Keep it short and sweet. That's going to help you more likely get a response. Again, we mentioned this in the previous slide, but have options. Have options for people, because again, the first time you invite them to that class that's on this one Tuesday night doesn't mean that that's going to work for everybody. Keep notes on who you're inviting, when you're inviting, what their response was, because no doesn't mean never. And again, if they're like, no, I'm absolutely not interested, then yeah, you don't want to be pestering them and whatnot. But most people, I rarely get the no, I'm not interested. Usually it's no, this date doesn't work. No, this came up, we can't come now. No, you mean I'm always watching my grandkids at night, so I can't, get out of the house those days. Whatever the piece is, it's usually something I can solve. It's usually just a timeline thing that works for people. And then remember, life is busy for most people. You're trying to make this easy. So, I don't do it a lot now, but I definitely have, where I'm like, hey, I know I live out of town. I mean, I live about 10, 15 minutes outside of my main town. And so people always coming into my home isn't the easiest. So I've had to make options of having classes at studios that are more local, because I know that the extra 10 to 15 minutes deters a lot of people from coming out to my house. And so again, you got to make things simple for them, right? This is why I do classes like also in Chatham and Wellsburg, right? Because my Chatham people are likely not going to drive a half hour to Wellsburg. You need to make this easy, however that is. And sometimes I've just gone to people's houses, right? That's what I say. They're like, oh, I don't drive. And I'm like, okay, cool. Not a big deal. Why don't you host a class? And then we can just have the class at your house. And then follow up on all maybes and even the yeses. This is something that people forget to do. Yes, we want to follow up with people who said maybe they could come to a class, but we also want to follow up with the people that said, yes, I'm planning on attending, because guess what? If we go back to the point before, life is busy, and I am infamous. If I didn't put it in my calendar, it's not happening. And I get invited to a lot of things. So usually when I say yes to something, I will put it in my calendar, but I get invited to a lot of other network marketing classes or parties or whatever. And sometimes I'll say yes. Sometimes I say no, but guess what? I don't have a lot of people follow up with me really well to any of those classes. They'll send me one Facebook message. They'll also maybe send me the invite to the group page. But even if I don't respond, they never follow up. And so you're losing a lot of people that way, for you to again, you're losing people that way because you're not connecting on that consistent basis. But the people with yeses, those are the people that, again, you just want to be like, hey, you said you're planning on coming, you know, look forward to seeing you then, right? Just that little reminder. So now we're going to dive into class preparation, because being prepared, again, is half the battle when it comes to the class. If I don't feel prepared for class, it's really hard for me to feel like that I'm in control of it. It's hard for me to relax if I feel scattered before I even get in there. So that's why, and again, Ashley goes through this in the stage 2 of the biz training, and I love how she set it out. So like, I have my class bag prepped at all times. If someone asks me, hey, can you host a class in a half hour? I'd be like, yep, I just need to grab my bag and I'm out the door. So in my bag, I have my handouts and folders. I have all of my information pages, note pages for everybody. I should add like pens on here. Actually, is something that I missed on here. Pens. I have my handouts with the kits. I have my enrollment pages, and I have my draw slips. That's all like the folders and pages that I have on hand. Again, if you have the class in the box, you pretty well have everything you possibly need other than draw slips. That's the one thing that the class in the box doesn't have, but I really think they should add it in. You want your notes. So when I put notes here, it's because I want you to have your own notes, especially if you're in the beginning of teaching your classes and you're not comfortable just speaking off the top of your head. So you're going to want a point form flow of how the class is going to go. Again, you can actually download this. The class in the box has it. It's just a general flow, right? What is an essential oil? You know, why doTERRA, 3 uses, top 10, right? And then our closing and our draw, right? So that's generally how it's going to go. But you might want to put in an extra few points, like why doTERRA? And you're going to talk about, you know, the therapeutic testing. You're going to talk about co-impact sourcing. And maybe you want to put just, again, couple point form pieces. If you're reading from the page, it's not going to feel as authentic to everyone. Even if you wrote those words, reading it from a page is never going to come across as authentic. So get prepared to look up, make eye contact, and read the room, because that's where a really good presenter and teacher will be able to start reading the room and interacting with your group as you're presenting. So make sure you have your oils, right? So you have your top 10 oils, you have your wild orange. If there's any promos happening on certain oils, like if there's a deep blue promo going on or the Immortelle promo, maybe you want to bring that along as well so people can experience the oil. And make sure you also have your diffuser. Some other things that you might want to, especially if you're hosting the class, you have some refreshments handy. You may even just water. You mean, I try not to make it into wine because, 1, I don't want to be serving alcohol to people. And 2, I just find sometimes that gets a little out of hand. We've all been to those kind of nights. But make sure you have like any extra handouts. I went to a class of one of the builders, you know, had a bunch of extra handouts of like DIYs and whatnot. And I love that. I thought that was awesome that she just had some extra options for people who were getting started. They could grab some sheets to take home of some DIY recipes that she really loved. Make sure you have a draw prize. So again, if you have the class in the box, you can use your wild oranges as those draw prize slips, or for those draw prizes. You just have to make up your own draw prize slips. And then your host gift. If you're not, again, this is if you're hosting someone else is hosting for you, then you're going to have your hostess gift. Or maybe you don't have it there. I like to have it there and present it at the class, but sometimes, I mean, I'm infamous for forgetting my hostess gift and having to drop it off the next day. But if you can, remember to bring your hostess gift as well. So those are, again, just are the main pieces. Again, Ashley goes through this step by step in detailed form in the stage 2 biz training, which is going to be part of your homework. But I wanted to go over just really quickly of what I feel are those basic pieces that you need to prepare before you even get into the room when you're teaching. So again, you're going to want to go through Ashley's training in stage 2. This is key. Again, she just goes into a lot more detail. She explains, Ashley and I teach very similar, so that's why I'm not going to reinvent the wheel on this. Take a peek at what she's giving you. It is absolute gold. And she's put a lot of work into creating this in a step-by-step system for all of us. And I think it's amazing that we get to tap into that knowledge. So take some time and start going through stage 2, even if you've already completed stage 2, which most of you probably already have. But go through and review again, take some notes, again, because every time you hear these things, you're going to learn something new. Right? Even I can go through stage 2 of her biz training and I'm going to learn something new. So take some time to review that. And note that if you need help to launch your first class or two, you need to connect with your enroller. So if you haven't taught your own classes before, or you just don't feel comfortable quite yet, some people take it on and just run with it, and that's awesome. But if you are launching your first class and you aren't comfortable teaching yet, then you need to connect with your enroller, so that you guys can work at a time where maybe they can come out and help you. I mean, this isn't a requirement though. And I think people need to understand that too, is that you don't have to go. I mean, your enroller technically doesn't have to go and teach that first class or two for you. They're doing that as a gift. So really, if you're having someone come out, make sure that you are filling that class as much as you can, because again, they're giving up their time. And yes, obviously your enroller, your upline benefits from you succeeding, but it is still a lot of time to give out. So just honor their time as well, and make sure that you guys can really work together to make it the best class possible. So this is what I usually get when I start talking to new builders about teaching. They're like, they've gone through all the business training, we've chatted about the class, they've seen a couple of my classes, or I've even come and taught a couple of classes for them. But when I say like, hey, I've noticed that you haven't been booking your own classes, and they say like, but I'm still scared. What if this happens? What if this happens? And so I loved this. This is, I believe, out of the launch guide or share guide. But it talks about the what ifs, right? And these are the common what ifs that come up when people are venturing out into teaching on their own. So the most common ones are, what if I feel unqualified to teach? This is probably the number one piece that I see, is that people feel unqualified to teach. And I love these points, that you aren't to be the expert and you don't need to be. And I've reiterated this on so many levels, but again, just having those simple resources there, like your Essential Life Guide or the Modern Essentials Guide or even the Modern Essentials app, is going to give you the basic information to deal with maybe more deeper health concerns that you don't feel qualified and you aren't qualified to actually answer. So this is where I just lead them to resources, so that it's not me giving the advice, that it is truly just from the resource. If you feel like if they ask about doTERRA's CPTG testing, right? Again, we really try to just focus on our own, right? I don't get in, like when people ask me about other brands, I tend not to like start bashing other brands, but I will just, again, reiterate why I love doTERRA so much, and just reiterating that not all oils are all created equally. So if there's concerns over internal use, this is another one that people will often get. And again, I love the third point on there. It just says invite guests to do what they feel is best for them. Again, I'm not sitting here saying that you absolutely should drink lemon the lemon essential oil in your water. No, they don't have to. If they don't feel comfortable with that, that's okay. But what I always say is that I use lemon in my water every day, multiple times a day, and how much better I feel when I do. If you have low attendance or no-shows, and again, I know I've touched base on this as well, but again, trust that whoever came is perfect. And I know Darlene spoke up on one of our previous trainings. She was the only one that came to the class that day when I taught. And again, she was truly just meant to be there. We were meant to just catch up, sit down, and have just a beautiful conversation about the oils. I mean, she fell in love with the oils and is now sharing them with her family and friends. So yeah, you know what? Even though I could have considered that whole class as a failure because it was low attendance, I mean, I really just took it as a great time to catch up with someone who I hadn't seen in quite a while, and look, look what came of that. So, even a class where it was supposed to be a class, but it only ended up being one person, still ended up being such a benefit for both of us. So like it says, enjoy the opportunity to nurture the few that came. And that's what I'll say is, if there's a low attendance at a class, I'll say, like, you know what, there were supposed to be some other people coming, but life gets busy. I definitely understand that. The cool part is that because there's only one or two of you here, you guys get to ask all the questions you want and you can get my full attention, which is really good. That way, if you have some deeper questions, we'll have time to get into that. It even says, like, if no one came, use that time to, follow up with your list. Sometimes, we're like, oh, no one showed, and then we just turn on the TV, right? But no, like, you've already carved out that time for your business. So put that time back into your business, because obviously there's a skill that you need to level up on, and inviting is obviously one of those skills, is of getting people into those chairs. So much of this business is about simply just getting people into the seats, getting them to the class. So if someone brings up buying on Amazon, because again, you can find anything everywhere. But again, just tell them that, doTERRA does not actually approve the sale of doTERRA's oils on Amazon. So they are trying to crack down on that. And so these people are people that have kind of gone rogue. And so often they are actually looking at cutting corners with the oils. You won't get any of the benefits of the wholesale membership. Again, there's obviously the issue of adulteration that could be happening. And they really just don't get the community and support that you truly get from having a doTERRA membership. We've all had this, which is always the nightmare, where the host tells the guest that you don't have to buy anything. And technically, while that's true, we're not here to say, like, they have to. You really want to, again, prep your host. Like, that's what it says. Next time, prepare your host to understand the value of enrolling and the intention of the class with a hosting overview. This is why I often share. I have like a little 2-page guide that if people are hosting a class, I'll send it to them, and it gives them just some basic wording. I've asked hostesses to actually take down posts. Like, if they put in a Facebook group, I've actually asked them to take things down if they've said stuff like that. Because, and I reiterate to them that, no, please know that this is not a pressure sales kind of piece. However, but this is actually my business though, and there is the option to purchase. And so I just don't want to set people up to think that, to not look at purchasing, because these oils are a great value, and they honestly don't work unless you actually get to own and use the oil. So again, speak confidently. A lot of that comes with preparing your host properly. It doesn't happen often, but it's definitely a nightmare if it does. Again, even if that happens in the class, in the moment, there's no way to take it back. Again, just say, just share, the value of the products and the value of the membership as best as you can. If someone asks if it is an MLM, otherwise known as multi-level marketing, yes, doTERRA is a multi-level marketing company, but I always say, however, they're set up very differently than most network marketing companies. Most network marketing companies try to lure people in on the business side more than just being customers, where the base of doTERRA's members are actually just customers. Over, it's like 85, almost 90% of people are just customers. And that's why we've set it up so clearly, is that you are either a customer or you're a wellness advocate now. And so it's really easy and clear for people to know that there's no pressure to do the business, because they truly can set up simply as a customer, just like if they were buying a membership at Costco. And again, doTERRA is really product-based business, right? So again, just reiterating and being confident though in the network marketing model. Even though they are a product-based company, and obviously we love these oils and want to share them out, network marketing is the best way to do this type of business because there needs to be education that goes with these oils, right? You can put all these oils on a shelf and they would not have touched what I think we're up to like 6 million people in the world. They would not have 6 million people purchasing doTERRA if they just sat on a store shelf. It's the education that has gone with it that makes this so successful, and that's why it needed to be set up as a network marketing company versus just a retail store. So those are the pieces that I love to go. Again, take some time to go over this and identify what are the pieces that are coming up for you that you feel that are holding you back from teaching those classes and being confident in them. So a couple last things before I actually close up. This will be a little bit shorter and sweeter today. But again, I took this same slide from last week, and that is just to remind you to track your sampling, your inviting, and following up your progress as you go through this. Because again, tracking these things is going to allow you to keep better awareness about who you're going to invite to the next class or who you need to follow up with. So whether you are following like Ashley's Trello, I've started using that now, and I absolutely love how easy and simple it is for me to continue my follow-ups using that program. It takes a little bit of time to get used to it, but I highly, highly recommend, if you aren't familiar with it, just search Trello, Trello, in the Extraordinary Life Biz group, and you'll see her whole training that comes up on it. It's a free app. There are paid versions, but you can do tons with just the free app option if you want to geek out over getting super organized. But again, success is scheduled. So schedule in your time for your homework this week. Schedule in what you're going to be doing during those times. So sometimes it's not just enough to be like doTERRA time. I used to do that. It was like, this is doTERRA time, which was fine, except I wouldn't be focused. And so, or I'd be trying to do too many things at once. And so if I did that, I'd end up spending like 2 hours on doTERRA, but not really getting anything done. So schedule your time, but get a focus on this hour. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to take this amount of time and I'm going to start going through my invite list, right? You really want to get specific on what's happening and when. So take some time to bust out that calendar. So this is one other quote that I wanted to share with you, that each time we face our fear, we gain strength, courage, and confidence in the doing. We, again, tend to shy away from teaching these classes because it's a fear of speaking in public. And this is a common fear. So you are not alone. But the only way to honestly get past that is in the doing, right? That's how we get better at this. And so take some time this week, bust out your notes, make sure that you feel super prepped, and start talking your way through the class out loud to yourself. I know this sounds silly and weird, but I promise you it will help build your confidence in teaching. All right. So homework. Previously in this week, we talked about sharing your story on page 5 of the share guide. You're going to want to go through and complete that. That'll be one of the pieces that you should even just take a picture of and send to me, or you can just simply type it out. Watch the booking class presentation. Again, this is kind of optional again this week. I'll specify that when I break it down, but I really invite you to look at this because it has some pieces. So send me a key takeaway if you do get a chance to watch it. If you don't get to watch it this week, it'll absolutely be on next week's homework. So this is a chance for you to kind of get ahead. But absolutely, you need to complete the stage 2 training of Ashley's training and send me the keynotes, because again, she goes over everything you honestly need to know in teaching a class. And I'm not going to sit here on a 2-hour presentation going through step by step what is already there for you to go in and see. So number 3 there, that's going to probably take the majority of your time during this week. So set aside a few hours to go through that training. Number 4, keep sampling and start inviting people to classes. You should have a couple of classes booked. Hopefully you have something booked in early May. And so you want to start using the tools that we kind of went through in inviting and start inviting those people to classes. And I'm going to link up a few extra resources in the post when I do this video. So go back to the list in the Facebook post when that'll link up this video. Go through that to really hone in on the homework, because there's a few adjustments that need to be made. So bonus, if you watch the booking class presentation, as a bonus, invite 5 people to host a class in May. I want to see who actually takes me up on this, because if you actually take me up on this, you are likely someone who's going to succeed in this business, because you're going to go and take that extra step and go above and beyond. Again, it's not a requirement of the homework this week, but I'm really going to push you outside your comfort zone to start pushing yourself ahead of the agenda, to start thinking more long-term, and really diving into getting some things done. Again, homework. So anytime you're taking notes or anything on this, just take a quick snapshot and send them to me. Again, everything's to be sent to my email before the end of day Sunday. I will not be doing any exceptions this week. We have 2 weeks of kind of getting into the swing of things. I feel like everyone understands that you need to send something into me. This week, it'll be sharing your story. I need to see a picture of that. I need to see some of your keynotes from Ashley's training. That's going to be the biggest piece, as well as inviting people to classes. So there's those 3 key pieces that I want to see. You can even take a snapshot of like a Facebook message out to people, inviting them to a class. You're all friends of mine on Facebook, so I should be able to see if you're creating a Facebook event. And again, I'm going to I'll link up my hostess guide that I send people. It's just a 2-page guide that answers some of the basic questions if they're hosting a class, but it'll be useful to you as well, because it has some wording and how I invite people. Because I usually will, again, create a Facebook event, because most people I'm inviting are on Facebook. I'll create a Facebook event, but then I will private message every single person to invite them to your class, right? I'm not just going to use the mass invite list on the event page. I'm actually going to private message everyone so that I can connect with them in a more personal way. All right, so that's where we're going to leave it for today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, if I can figure this out. Stop sharing. Hey. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. I know I went through this quickly, but I want to be mindful of your time. You should ideally have a little bit of extra time to actually dive into some of this homework, whether you go through that tonight or whether you would just get a kickstart tomorrow. But again, schedule this in. Make this a priority for yourself. You're doing this program because you wanted to create something. And the only way to honestly feel like you succeeded at the end of these 6 weeks and at the end of May is if you actually do the work, right? Because there's so much that can be created between now and the end of May. And I'm really excited to see how you guys step up and take charge in that way. All right. If you, again, have questions, let me know. And otherwise, I will see you guys again next week.